All right, we're going to get going, everybody. Welcome. You guys having a good time? Awesome. It's about to get better. If you're still coming in, there's some space on either side of the bleachers if you want to stand to get a little bit closer, to get a better vantage point. My name is Sean Womack. I am the chair of the Marching Rudimental Committee for Progressive Art Society, so I'm going to take a moment and welcome you all to PASIC 50. You guys having a great day? Awesome. All right. Without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to George Mason University and Mr. Dan Shep.
What's up, y'all? It's an honor to stand here today with our peers, our close friends, and a lot of personal mentors who have all come together to share in our love for the percussive arts. Today, we're super excited to give you a behind-the-scenes look at George Mason University Indoor Drumline's 2025 production in our presentation, The George Mason Show, a genre-bending percussive experience. Before we dive in, I do want to take a second to talk about the ensemble. Being an indoor drumline that's also a university, that's also an historical figure, presents both great opportunities and great challenges. Our fearless founder, Dr. Michael Nickens, couldn't be with us today, but he continues to play an instrumental part in our success. 2025 marked the 17th year of our existence, and we're extremely excited to be performing at PASIC for the first time. It shouldn't go without saying that these members have made a massive commitment to resurrect this program 7 months after it was last performed. While it wasn't logistically feasible to perform the entire show exactly as it was, we feel like we were able to capture the essence of our most important and visual elements. And now, a little bit of information on what you're going to hear today. In the first section of our presentation, entitled Comedy, Satire, and the State of the Art, we will give you insight into the point of view we brought to the production to create a satirical commentary on the indoor drumline space. In the second section, entitled Rope Tension Drums and Modern Marching Design, we will discuss the methods we use to implement these specialized instruments into our season, with a look into the compositional and technical aspects found within the use of rope tension drums. In the third section, outside the visual box, we will peel back the layers of the unorthodox and innovative ways we experimented with the visual mediums found within indoor drumline shows. And in our last section, orchestration techniques for indoor drumline, we will disclose the orchestrational and musical techniques displayed within our program that elevated our players and helped ensure we could compete in the modern marching paradigm. And last, we will do a full musical run-through of our program. I do want to pause and give proper credit to the folks that make this happen. Today, you're going to be graced by the presence of our core design team up here, which includes myself, Dan Shack, creative director, Travis Peterman, program director and battery arranger, Tim Fairbanks, visual designer, and Andrew Montero, front ensemble and sound designer. I am lucky to serve at GMU alongside some of the best designers and teachers in this activity. Similarly, we have an incredible member culture that has allowed us to grow our creative output and subsequently our competitive success. While not everyone involved in 2025 is standing on the stage today, I'm compelled to give a quick shout out to our full team. Without their dedication, we could not do this. Give it up. And now, let the fun begin. As designers, educators, administrators, and members of a Winter Guard International world-class percussion ensemble, we take what we do very, very seriously. Our commitment is serious, the competition is serious, our legacies are serious, and this gives many of us a serious point of view when it comes to what we make and how we make it. It's not surprising we tend towards the serious. We as indoor drumline participants want to be seen as real artists in an activity that is constantly questioning what it is at its core. Is it competition? Is it education? Is it art? Is it entertainment? In reality, each indoor percussion organization holds a different value system. Organizations stake their creative claim in a quest to define themselves and break through. To do that requires a balanced mixture of education, creative design, pure execution, and visceral entertainment. All of us probably agree that evaluating art is inherently a subjective process. This gives us, as an ensemble, the leverage to do what we want to do creatively. But in a quest to not only express ourselves and also succeed competitively and give our students the best experience we can, we're inevitably pulled in the direction of the effective formulas we've seen come before us. Now that we are 30 plus years in to this special activity, a question emerges. How do we create something novel? On one hand, there's the abstract approach. For the teams that do abstract well, they do it very well. We have designers crafting incredibly high-level performances that can stun even the most jaded amongst us. These teams create stunning art pieces that more than border on the professional. The depth of the music, the authenticity of the members' performances evokes sincere emotion. What's left unsaid leaves room for the viewer's interpretation. At the same time, abstract shows can tend towards the impressionistic and opaque, with concepts like time, memory, the human condition, personal demons, and so forth. The medium of drumline, at times, feels mismatched with the profundities that are attempted to be contained within these types of shows. Plainly, not everyone can pull this style off. On the opposite side of the spectrum, literalism drives drumline designers towards an array of overused archetypes and storylines. Apocalypse, the life of Beethoven, tribal warfare, metamorphosis. We attempt to tell a story, but we fail to capture the appropriate narratives, peaks, and valleys in an 8-minute production. This style can, and has, been done well. It also hasn't. Rather than try to teach the audience a lesson or over-engineer a poignant experience, what if there was another way to do indoor drumline? What if we could drop a serious act for a second and laugh at ourselves? It was this type of questioning that led to the birth of the George Mason Show.
Hello and good evening, everyone. Who am I, you ask? Well, isn't it obvious? I'm George Mason, and welcome to my illustrious indoor drumline show. We have drums, we have beat, we have cymbals and stuff. We have melody and groove and big drums that move. I said, big drums that move.
As you just heard, a main ingredient of the George Mason Show is breaking the fourth wall, as we invite the audience to interrogate the conventions of indoor drumline, rather than pretend they don't exist. George Mason serves as the mouthpiece of the ensemble, inviting the viewer into his illustrious indoor drumline show. Many drumline programs feel a little bit like a snow globe, a world protected by the distance between the viewer and the performer. George instead leans on the audience's presence, putting his arm around you, explaining that we have drums, pit, cymbals, and stuff. This authentic engagement with the audience lets you in on the joke. We aren't pranking you, just reminding you this is a band show, and in a band show, there's certain things you can expect to happen. Almost every ensemble in independent world feels the compulsive need to use big props. It's critical to many groups' production value and storytelling. But on the flip side, the rearranging of props mid-show is a pitfall many groups fail to avoid. It's classic low-hanging fruit for visual judges to shred apart in their commentary. In the George Mason Show, a show about indoor shows, moving our gigantic backdrop props with no motivation is the motivation. When George tells us we have melody and groove and big props that move, we're able to reset our stage with a purpose. While many drumlines attempt to reconfigure their setting while distracting you with a flashy section feature, we instead draw direct attention to the clunky nature of the set change mechanism, creating an effect out of what is usually a haphazard dud in the middle of otherwise well-crafted programs. Tim will further discuss this moment from a visual perspective later in the presentation. This choice to say the quiet part out loud is a main vein that runs through the George Mason Show. You will find in the next segment of music that we continue to flay open what many indoor drumlines do in our attempt to fall in line and get credit.
Space. Texture. Motif.
Space, texture, and motif are probably the meaniest memes that emerged from the George Mason show. This section of the show has inspired some of the vocabulary that one may find on the average music judge's tape or design meetings immemorial. Musical space, texture, and rhythmic motifs are abundant in WGI percussion. Sometimes it feels like we have to check these compulsory intellectual boxes to get the credit we desperately crave. These terms' presence serves as evidence of our musical seriousness. Space is colloquially known to percussionists as that which resides between the notes, the ultimate determiner of rhythm itself. We wanted to play with not only musical space, but literal physical space. Upon the utterance of this term, the visual members on the floor float throughout like astronauts in a gravity-free environment, invoking the image of actual outer space. Texture is another highfalutin vocabulary word used frequently not only by WGI percussion judges, but also by culinary critics awarding Michelin stars to world-renowned restaurants. We present textural depth through the snare line's ambiguous rhythmic tapping and scraping. Though our texture is presented in a purposefully ridiculous and pretentious way, we seek to ask the question, can humor exist within serious artistry? Finally, motif is uttered, a word that perhaps came to define the ethos of the George Mason show. George's voice echoes rhythmically as you hear the snares play offset sextuplet roughs, layered over a bass of ostinato eighth notes. This type of rhythmic language is known across the indoor drumline scene. Many groups have forged their path in this specific style, simultaneously atmospheric and rudimental. We wanted part of the action too. It was reported to us that the word motif was yelled from the audience during some other ensemble's performances. For that, we are both apologetic and thrilled. Space, texture, and motif became the earworms of our 2025 show. George calls it like he sees it, infusing his show with the components he believes will make it successful. While many other teams incorporate these very same tricks under the guise of their respective concepts, we wanted to bring levity and humor, as well as artistry and intellectual effect, through our heavy-handedness. To this day, whispers of texture haunt the halls of the University of Dayton Arena. Now that we've talked through some of the thought process behind this section, let's hear it one more time.
Space. Texture. Motif.
You will find the continued use of satire within the traditional marching percussion instrumentation and stylistic techniques in our next section, led by Travis. Thanks.
Cool. So while I get this set up, I'm just going to talk a little bit about what we're going to see here. So this concept for this show actually started getting kicked around during the summer of 2019. So this has been brewing for a while before we finally decided to go for it. And one of the biggest original draws was the concept of using rope tension drums, right? It felt like a great opportunity to showcase something unique in the marching arts idiom, as well as represent instrumentation that was popular when the real George walked the earth, right? As excited as we were, there was also an intimidating element of making sure that it was done right. We wanted to demonstrate an authenticity that wouldn't be laughed out of fife and drum circles, but that would also translate fully to the competitive landscape of WGI. We're fortunate in this regard to be in close proximity to several of the most prominent rope drummers of our time. Pat McHale, Dadisi Sanyika, Brendan and Colin Mason, and Dave Loyal of Loyal Drums. Let's give it up for them. A few of them in the room right now, actually. Where you guys at? So not only did Loyal Drums hook us up with a full custom set of 6 snares and 4 basses, but they invented a modern harness attachment specifically for this show. In order to bridge the gap between rope tension and modern drumline, we felt we needed to be able to move more freely in order to showcase visual demand. So I won't give away Dave's design secrets here, but I will say that they work like a charm. These drums are actually a lot lighter than they look. So the rope drum section of our show can be broken down into 3 parts. We have a more traditional introduction, a B section that is inspired by drill team, and our take on a modern conglomeration to end the phrase. So before we dive into the details, let's give some context for the first section. So here's top to A4. So we felt that it was important to demonstrate some easily digestible skills to open the program. The snare writing required some different considerations, moving from Kevlar to calfskin, although this was mitigated by Loyal's Quantum Head that provides great rebound with a more articulate sound when compared to more traditional animal skin heads. So outside of some prep stroke considerations and switching our backstick to go over the top instead of to the side, most of the rhythms and stickings here aren't any different than what you might find in this tempo range on a Kevlar drum. So the one caveat here is with the classic 7-stroke roll pickup that's heavily featured in the fife and drum worlds. So if you've ever been to a muster or seen a rope tension line play at all, you probably know what I'm talking about. I'll be the first to say that we were afraid of doing what they do, which is intentionally playing them out of time and somehow still playing them together. So we cheated and notated them as EM to 1, and that seemed to be close enough for us. So let's see top to A4 one more time with that in mind. So one of the biggest differences between the WGI and fife idioms isn't necessarily the rudiments or the rhythms, but the style. This shows up most obviously in what the bass drums are doing. Kudos to the 4 of these guys who are willing to sacrifice a few bugadas and hand-to-hands to learn swings and twirls, all without zero complaining, right guys? Zero complaining. The way the arm is involved in the prep stroke allows for a unique and demonstrative presence, and a heavy unison syncopation that replaces split parts requires maximum accuracy and commitment from all players. Visually, we did our best to touch several bases in this part of the show. Right on the step-off, we employed a slow march technique long used by military bands all over the world. After some stylized mark time, we switched gears to feature some upper and lower body visuals inspired by my time marching in drill teams. So the middle phrase of our rope drum display features this drill team influence demonstrated in A4 to B. And this is a short one, so we're going to do it twice, back to back. So for the final statement of this movement, we modulate from 120 to 180 beats per minute. This was not out of consideration just for momentum and pacing, but also strategic in creating a platform for some new visual content. After figuring out the harness attachment, we wanted to make sure we pushed the limit with more modern choreography and some high-speed drill. Even with the upgraded hardware, this was still quite a challenge for the performers, which they handled excellently. The tempo returns to 120 for the final phrase to make sure we wrapped up Yankee Doodle with a strong punctuation. So unfortunately, we weren't able to do 100% of these visual elements, but here is B to C. So now that you've seen each of the three parts, we'll run them all in succession. So I want to make sure to draw attention to the front ensemble contributions in this section as well. We faced a unique challenge with orchestrating the pit in a way that would complement field drums without getting in their way from a sound frequency standpoint, but that would also stand up to modern WGI design expectations. So as the featured pit voice, we landed on a duet of piccolo and traditional xylophone, which we feel like paired well with its extreme articulation in comparison to the battery voice, as well as provided another unique element that helped us stand out. So please enjoy the entirety of Scene 1 from our 2025 production, followed by Tim with more insight on our visual design process.
Hi everyone, I'm Tim, the visual designer here, and we're going to talk about what it feels like to think outside the box for a WGI production. Right? Dan talked earlier about these big props that move, and as you can see, those props don't exist today. Right? They didn't make it on the truck. Just kidding. They were down this side. That's how we start the show. And if you want to watch the show in its entirety from up top, it is on YouTube. 10 out of 10, highly recommend. But I'll kind of explain what the props did during the show, okay? We use them to change the weight of the performers on the floor in a lot of different ways. This beginning was all snares and bass drums. The next section is all tenors, cymbals, and VE, and George, of course. And we had a number of times where we had everybody on the floor at once, and we balanced that at other times in the ballad where George was the only person that you could see on the floor. Everybody else was completely hidden. Okay? So the props did have quite a bit to do with the show, and that was something that we realized when we discovered our tarp. This is something that we'd never had the technology to do before, is to print on both sides of the tarp. Okay? I've tried it before with paint and it works moderately well, but when Field and Floor came to us and said we can print on both sides and you can pick the pattern on both sides, we jumped at that opportunity. Okay, our graphic designer didn't love that, but we did. So the first look here is George Mason's logo, and we found when we had the props set along the edge here, as soon as we went to unfold the tarp, we couldn't, right, because the props were on it. So we had to come up with some solutions. One was this flap, and some of you up top can probably see this. There's a 9-foot flap that goes over on the top level of the floor. It's just on this side of the props. And the graphic designer had to design that so that it fit into this image, but then also becomes the far left-hand portion of the second image when everything is completely pulled out. Okay, so those are some of the considerations that we had to take to solve before the kids even saw any part of the show, okay? So we're gonna show you a section, this is D to E, and this is the first unveiling of the tarp. Okay, great job. So now we're going to do that same section again, which means we have to reset the tarp. Okay, this is something that the students did a great job with all year, and they never complained, at least when I was around, so I really appreciated that. But the math involved in this, getting it to come all the way back, fold over at exactly the right spot, have the flap be where it's supposed to be, get it flat enough for the tenors to march on, all those things are considerations that we had to do every day at practice. One thing when we do this next, I'd like you to watch for is, this is another discovery that we had. You can't march on a moving tarp, right? And all of it is moving except for the part that was behind the props. So the cymbals, as they're coming across the center of the field, they are literally at the seam where they can't go until the VE gets it completely taut on side one, and then in that half a second, then they can step over the 50 and use the rest of the floor, okay? That's one thing to take a look at. The other thing that you won't see today because all the props aren't here, but at the end of the show, one of the things in WGI that anybody in this room has experienced is once you're done with your show, you have to get everything over the timeline, right? And that is one of the most dramatic, panic-inducing moments of anybody's life. And once you get over the timeline, everything's great, everything's cool. Well, we worked that into the show. So you'll hear this in the standstill run through, but we took the last 2 minutes of our show and got everything that wasn't in the front ensemble, all the props, all the people, all the tarp, back over to side one, so we were already over the timeline. Okay, so you'll hear, do not get a penalty, do not get a penalty, and get off the floor from George as he's telling us to get off the floor. That's later in the show, but that was another kind of math problem that we had when we had to fold the open floor up into the closed version on side one, because again, you can't march on a moving floor. So we had a lot of like, tenors have to go off first, snares then go this way, then they hold the tarp a little bit, thank you cymbals, and then everybody can be on the tarp. So like I said, check it out on YouTube for the full effect. Here we go, one more time, D to E. Okay, just a few more things. One thing I'm noticing that is awesome of a PASIC audience, all you have to do is stop playing and everybody applauds. It's awesome. It's very hard to do inside. Okay, so thinking outside the box visually, just one thing that I want to talk about is synthesis of this show really started by being in prelims, watching 31 drum lines all in a row. There was a time when there was only 7 independent world groups and everybody had their own identity. It's very refreshing, and that time is not anymore, right? We have a lot of really, really good groups, but we also have a lot of sameness, okay? So that was one of our missions, was to bring something different to the entire activity. And when I think about thinking inside or outside of the box, WGI does have sheets, right? They have scoring sheets. Dan said this is a competition also. We need to think inside that box, right? Because we are trying to get points. What we do out here, though, we want to be thinking outside of that competitive box. The other box that people think inside of a lot is when they're designing shows and their inspiration is to watch one of the top 6 groups and go, that works, let's do that, but do it in purple or slightly different somehow. And that's how you get that sameness to the whole activity, okay? There's a lot of really good groups right now, but there's some sameness, and we're just trying to break out of that a little bit. So if you're thinking outside of a box, one of the boxes to think outside of is YouTube. Right? All right, thank you everybody for your attention. And now, Andrew Montero, our front ensemble arranger and sound mastermind. Thank you.
Hello everybody, my name is Andrew. I'm here to talk about the orchestration techniques that we use in this show. So when designing the show, we knew that catchy melodies, memorable earworms, and theatrical Broadway-like music would be important to conveying the humor of our program. We felt like comedic melodies like Yankee Doodle didn't need to be deconstructed to the point where you didn't recognize it, because the intent for the show was for it to be unapologetically absurd. Our main bass feature is a prime example of that. One of the battery percussion elements we wanted to poke fun at are the absurd names for bass drum rudiments that we have. Now, some of these you may not have heard of before, but our bass techs assured me that these are all real names of real rudiments. So take a second and enjoy our Yankee Doodle bass break. So the main challenge of orchestration that we had with this was the live voice playing with the bass line. We knew that George's vocal register would be set above the frequency range of the basses, and that helped inform many of the orchestrational decisions that we made. As long as we were thin in that higher frequency range, you'd be able to hear his voice more clearly. That's why we have sub-bass support under the bass line and melodic support in the higher octave of the piano over the voice. Knowing where these are helps influence where the voices are going to be orchestrated. In terms of style, we were inspired by children's songs that have a call and response nature to them. George says the rudiment, and then you hear it immediately afterwards. Electronically, we have a drum pad that's providing some 808 support for the very open drum set groove. And so let's listen to it one more time, put into a larger context.
It's a Yankee Doodle bass break with me. wings, buccaneers hand to hand, and more, like game cubes, wheels, lasers, and lasers, mega lasers, mega lasers. Come, pretend if you figure to philantro, invent a car bomb moon smashers. Yeah, thanks!
So our next section is Gotta Have Ballad. It's the theme song to the Titanic, My Heart Will Go On. In our show, it's a love song between George and his TV girlfriend, Televisiana. George, like all his fellow designers, have a love for electronics, and this was our cheeky way of displaying that. When making orchestrational decisions, I always come back to why we use a specific song. What has attracted the design team to it? Was it because of the melody, the emotion it evoked, or the lyrics? Identifying why we like a song can help direct how to arrange it. In this case, we chose it because it was recognizable. It's popular, and it's been memed. So there's a lot of elements that we wanted to maintain because if we deviated too much, the comedic and satirical aspect would be lost. So here it is, My Heart Will Go On.
George. Oh, George, you wouldn't do an indoor show without me, would you?
Never, my love.
Every night in my dreams, I see you, I feel you. Me, Benjamin Franklin, because I feel electric.
So an important part of this piece for us was the voice and the lyrics. We thought the idea of George lip-syncing a beautiful female voice would be hilarious, and it was. And again, just like with Yankee Doodle bass break, this helped inform the structure and orchestration we ended up doing. When you have a voice or singing during a pit moment, it can be challenging to achieve clarity while also having interesting content. We see in the beginning of this piece where the singing is the heaviest, we have a more open and expressive marimba line in the lower register out of range of the singer. Also, since the melody was being sung and was our primary voice, we didn't need to duplicate that in the vibes or bells like you normally would. And that leaves them for more interesting counter melodies. Another thing I consider a lot when orchestrating is how the part looks when you see the players playing it. Obviously, we're in a pageantry activity. And if we want things to sound expressive, then it also needs to look expressive. And to that end, making choices about octaves, intervals, leaps, and arm motions are not just musical choices. I will often figure out how I want things to look and feel before I figure out what notes can achieve that. For example, when the lyrics say near, far, I knew I wanted the marimbas to represent that. So I have them play a closed voicing for near, and then for far, I have them play the highest and lowest F sharp on the marimba at the exact same time, so their arms were as far stretched as possible. So let's hear that ballad one more time.
George. Oh, George, you wouldn't do an indoor show without me, would you?
Never, my love.
I feel Are you Benjamin Franklin? Because I feel electric.
Make sure you check it out on YouTube. We had lights and he rode Televisiana. It was crazy. So for this next section is our closer snare feature. Because we started with a rope drum line at the beginning of the show, we wanted to bring that idea back, but this time with a soloist in the pit. We're lucky that our center marimba, Keegan, is also a part of the George Mason University's fife and drum corps. It seemed like an obvious choice in the musical program. Let's listen to it now, and then I'll talk more about its structure and components. So we have a call and response structure, but with a little bit more nuance. The field drum plays a more traditional figure, followed by the snare line's response, containing the involved reinterpretation of that rudiment in the modern context. Ultimately, this moment was about coalescing of the new and the old. Rather than looking at these different drumming styles as distinct and separate, we wondered how we could creatively meld these voices to create more musical depth while maintaining our intellectual through line. This piece is inspired by Clockwork Orange's rendition of Funeral for Queen Mary. For the synth orchestration, we have a flute organ, and supporting that is a timpani sound in the electronic drum pad. The organ has a sawtooth lead texture mixed into it for that modern aesthetic, adding to the blend of the old and the new. The field drum is amplified and has some unique electronic channeling. Hello? Oh, you're back? The field drum is amplified and has some unique electronic channeling in place to enhance the effect of the punch it has during the accents. I'll have Keegan play that right now to kind of show you what we did. So we achieved this by pitch shifting the sound of the drum down an octave through a plugin in our mixer. That channel with the octave displaced voice is behind a gate, which only triggers when the decibel level of the field drum gets to a certain high threshold, like when he plays accents. So when he's playing softer, the lower octave channel doesn't trigger, and then when he accents, the lower octave channel initiates, and that's what gives you that bass drum-like punch when he goes into the higher decibel levels. Now that we have a little more context, let's hear that one more time. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to hand it back to Dan Trapp.
Gotta have some audio issues here in WGI. It's inevitable. That's what we're gonna do. Wouldn't be right if we didn't. So, as you've heard over the course of the session, a lot of serious thought went into the goofiness and the fun that you experience on the surface. I feel very confident saying we never worked so hard or believed this much in a show that we've done. The complexity of the musical and visual orchestration brought a lot of novel challenges that pushed us as designers and thinkers. Producing a comedic show gave us a new perspective on how fun doing indoor can really be. We laughed a lot more than any year I can remember, staff and members alike. Before we ship this thing, we do need to give one final thank you that goes out to our sponsors, who literally make our group function by providing us with the highest quality products. So I gotta shout that out real quick. Pearl Adams, Vic Firth, Drumsticks and Mallets, Zildjian, Remo Drumheads, Fred Miller Incorporated, Field and Floor FX, Synced Up Designs, Dropspin Metronome, Ultimate Drill Book, Loyal Drums, and Sweetwater Sound. Please give it up for them real quick. We are very, very honored to share our process with you today. We look forward to bringing more of this energy to WGI in 2026. Maybe you'll even see George Mason hit the big stage again. Who knows? And what you've all been coming for, please enjoy a full musical of our 2025 production, The George Mason Show.
Performing their 2025 program, The George Mason Show. WGI Sport of the Evening. Excuse me, Bradley. What was that? I'll take it from here. You want to finish my announcements? Indubitably. Presenting their 2025 program, the show about the founding father, who's also a university, who's also a drumline. George Mason is proud to present the George Mason University Indoor Drumline. Who am I, you ask? Well, isn't it obvious? I'm George Mason, and welcome to my illustrious indoor drumline show. We have drums, we have pit, we have cymbals and stuff. We have melody and groove and big drums that move. I said, big drums that move. Yankee Doodle bass breaks with me. We got ones, twos, threes, and fours. Swings, knockers, hand to hand, and more. Like game cubes, wee-woos, lasers, and lasers, mega lasers. Come, pretend you're big into cilantro, inverted car, our moon smashers. Yeah, bass!
George, you wouldn't do an indoor show without me, would you?
Never, my love.
Franklin, because I feel electric.
Hey, one more time, let's give it up to the staff and members of the George Mason University Indoor Drum Line. Nice job, guys. Thank you all so much for coming. We will stick around to field any questions, suggestions, or grievances. Thanks, y'all.